And now we bring you Today in Pomposity. We asked, what is the most pompous thing you've heard lately? Mary Johnson tweeted, pick a phrase from John Kerry's speech, any phrase. Can't really add anything to that. Amanda Simpson said, Gwyneth Paltrow saying she and Chris Martin contributed something positive to the culture of divorce. JR2 tweeted, anything from Charlie Sheen, Gloria Steinem, or The View. So anti-American, sad, but so smug. And finally, Michael Billion said that Obama would have beaten Donald Trump. It's more likely that Rex Ryan will get another head coaching job than Obama beating Trump. Let me add, Ryan fired now by the Jets and the Buffalo Bills. Sad. And tomorrow, You Choose the News is back. Tweet an important story to me at Ed Henry or email us at tuckercarlsontonight@foxnews.com. That's about it for us tonight. Tune in each night, 7 p.m. Eastern, to the show that is the sworn enemy of lying, pomposity, of course, smugness, and groupthink. Don't forget to DVR the show if you haven't set that up already. The O'Reilly Factor is up next. Incoming White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus is going to step into the no spin zone. Good night. Tucker's back soon, I promise.
Hi, I'm Eric Bolling in for Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Let's get straight to our top story. President Obama retaliates against Russia. Today, President Obama announced a slew of sanctions against Russian diplomats and entities for cyber hacking aimed at interfering with the U.S. presidential election. The president said he's kicking out 35 Russian officials currently in the United States, and that the State Department is shutting down 2 Russian compounds in Maryland and New York that were apparently used for spying. President Obama added in his statement that American diplomats in the past year have experienced, quote, unacceptable levels of harassment in Moscow, unquote. And now a spokesman for Russian President Vladimir Putin says Moscow is considering retaliation. So what does the incoming Trump administration have to say about all this? Joining us now from Palm Beach, Florida, incoming White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus. Thank you so much. Big, important day, Reince. Mr. Chairman, let me put that correctly. Mr. Chairman, big, important day. Glad to have you. So the president-elect's reaction to President Obama, the lame duck president, with just 21 days left to go, slapping sanctions on Russia. Where are you guys?
Well, I mean, the president-elect put out a statement, and he said, look, it's time to move on to bigger and better things, but also, nevertheless, we're going to be meeting, and he's going to be meeting with intelligence officials next week to talk about this report and find out the details of exactly what happened, how the investigation took place, and maybe at that time or maybe later he'll have a response. But right now, we're just not in a position to sit here and respond to all of these details before we have a full-blown intelligence report on this particular matter.
So he's going to sit and look for the evidence. A lot of us on the right have been saying, where is the evidence? We understand that there are accusations saying that the Russians actually affected the outcome of the election, but we haven't seen it. Do you think he's going to ask for specific examples and evidence from our intel departments?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we all deserve it. I mean, here's the problem with this, Eric, and you know this as well as anybody. I have been, and we have been responding to articles from third parties, unnamed sources in the Washington Post, in the New York Times, and then in those same articles, it would say that the 17 intelligence agencies didn't agree with each other on the conclusion that was actually being reported by the third party, which was the anonymous source in the newspaper. So we just need to get to a point ourselves where we can talk to all of these intelligence agencies and find out once and for all what evidence is there, how bad is it. And look, and I would also say this, and the president-elect agrees with this, we agree that foreign governments shouldn't be hacking American institutions, period. So it's not like we condone the hacking of institutions and entities and businesses in America. Of course not. It's wrong, and it's something that we don't agree with. However, it would be nice if we could get to a place where the intelligence community, in unison, can tell us what it is that has been going on and what the investigation was and what it's led to, so that we can respond, and we're going to get to that. So we're not frustrated. We're just getting to the place where those facts will come to light.
And so we have a lame duck president who slapped some sanctions on Russia with 22 days left in his presidency. And then you also have two Republicans, Senator John McCain and Lindsey Graham today said, you know what, when the new Congress is in session, we're going to lead the charge to up the sanctions against Russia. Are they premature?
I'm not sure what they know, Eric. I mean, they may be privy to information that we don't know, but I also know that, you know, we're not interested in going to war all over the world either. And so I think having relationships, building relationships, making things better for Americans is something that President-elect Trump believes in. Look, we have a long history with Russia. Ronald Reagan used his relationship with Mikhail Gorbachev, I think, to a great benefit of Americans across the country, ending the Cold War, bringing down the wall in Berlin, and achieving an incredible amount of success by using relationships in order to get things done. And so I think that that's something that we're going to try to do. It's something that President-elect Trump believes in. And quite frankly, it's all about putting America first, and that's what we want to do, and that's what he wants to do.
So, Mr. Chairman, President-elect Donald Trump hasn't waited to be sworn in for some of the things that I think are great. You know, talking to Boeing, getting the price of their airplanes down, having companies promise to keep jobs here in America. Here's my question, though. President-elect Donald Trump, he's been throwing a bit of shade from President Obama on two initiatives, on Israel and the UN vote, and also now on this Russian sanction issue. Has he and will he contact both Bibi Netanyahu and or Vladimir Putin prior to being sworn in to say, hey, I got this January 20th, let's talk about it then, but don't take anything that's going on right now entirely too seriously?
Well, okay, so first of all, the president and President-elect Trump had a good call yesterday. These are two people that get along just fine, and they are getting along, and they are having constructive conversations. And secondly, before I get to that, President-elect Trump also believes in the one president at a time rule and is trying, and we are trying our best to adhere to that rule. The problem with what happened at the UN, though, was that in our minds, it was so egregious and so bad and so one-sided and I think so wrong toward our greatest ally in the Middle East that it was impossible for us not to communicate about that resolution. And we believe for the United States to abstain on such a resolution just really flies in the face of our long-term ally, Israel, and something that we wouldn't do once January 20th comes. And so the President-elect's been clear on that. This is the only democracy in the Middle East in Israel. And for us to bend over backwards for countries like Iran that harbor terrorists that want to destroy and kill Americans, and to look the other way and give away an incredible deal to them to start a nuclear arms race in the Middle East, but then to turn our backs on Israel without any mention of the other facts, I just think is unbelievable.
Mr. Chairman, I only have about 30 seconds or so. Will President Donald Trump reverse Obama's decisions on Israel and or Russia?
It's going to be up to him, and he's going to sit down and talk to his leadership at the Defense Department and State and in the White House and make those decisions, Eric. But look, it will be a different day. I can assure you and Americans across the country that Donald Trump's going to get things done from day one. He's going to fulfill the promises he made on the campaign, and it'll be good for our country.
I'm up against a hard break. I want to say thank you very much. Directly ahead, we'll have more on the U.S. sanctions against Russia. We'll be right back. Continuing now with our lead story, President Obama slapping sanctions on Russia for election hacking and harassment. Among other things, the State Department is shutting down 2 Russian compounds and declaring 35 Russian intelligence operatives persona non grata. House Speaker Paul Ryan called the president's actions, quote, long overdue. Meantime, one top Russian official called the action, quote, the death throes of political corpses. Joining us now from Houston, national security analyst Arash Aramesh, and from Washington, Cliff May, founder of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Arash, we'll start with you. So big stuff going on. Frankly, it feels to me like a lame duck president quacking lame duck quacks.
Eric, don't echo what the Russian embassy just tweeted, because, you know, That's what the Russians would like you to think, and that's what the Russians would like to say. They tweeted this lame duck, sort of taking a page now from Donald Trump's Twitter manual to mock everything and make fun of everything. But here's what happens. They meddled in our election. Our president has every right to target them, to hit them back. He should have done it sooner. I'm glad he is doing it, and I would hope he would declassify more info. And guess what? I want to see if Donald Trump, with all his pro-Russia friendly, love from Russia rhetoric, is really going to reverse what President Obama has done correctly, rightly, and justifiably.
And so, Cliff,
I want to see much tougher action against Russia because you know what? Frankly, the Russians are not just a rival. They are a fierce adversary, and they have exactly opposite interests in the region, in the Middle East, in Europe, and here now on the Western Hemisphere.
Okay, look, Cliff, what do you think of the sanctions that President Obama released today? Do you think they'll have the teeth that Arash thinks they will have? Or is this more a play to kind of box President-elect Donald Trump, becoming President Donald Trump, in a corner? What are you going to do? Go against the sanctions?
Yeah, look, first of all, these sanctions are a day late and a ruble short. And secondly, they're mostly symbolic. They target individuals, companies, government agencies that don't have assets in the U.S., that aren't coming to the U.S. So this is largely for show. What I hope it does focus on is something that the Obama administration did not focus on in a comprehensive manner during the past 8 years, and that is the threat of both cyber espionage and cyber warfare, kinetic warfare, doing destructive activities. Espionage we all do. We're using cyber espionage as well. We don't know whether the Russians interfered. Well, they interfered in our election. We don't know that they had any impact on our election. Of course, President Obama interfered in Israel's elections just a couple of years ago, spent taxpayer money to try to defeat Netanyahu. So it's good for the goose, maybe good for the gander. What we really need to do What we need to do here is focus on cyber espionage and decide where our red lines are. And as far as cyber warfare goes, we need to run a cyber arms race, and we need to win it.
Let me ask Arash. So the Obama administration decided that they're going to expel some 35 Russian diplomats that they call, I guess that would be called spies. Otherwise, you'd let them stay. So they're going to get rid of them. And they're shutting down 2 compounds that they figured were spy, let's call them hubs or cells. But why now? I mean, why now? If they knew about these things, why didn't they get rid of these things months or years ago?
We have confirmation now from 17 different intelligence agencies that not only the Russians were involved, but very high.
Do we?
Oh, we do.
We do. Do we have
FBI,
evidence?
CIA.
Do we have any evidence?
We do have evidence.
Where is it?
Absolutely.
Where is it?
It would be declassified. Well, you know what? Do you trust the Russians or do you trust the American?
I don't know
17
why
American
President
intelligence
Obama
agencies
decided to go with the sanctions without showing some just one form of evidence. Just prove it. I'm not saying he doesn't have it, but before you do something, show it.
And this is rich. This is really rich. I'm surprised that a conservative like yourself and someone at the FDD, Foundation for Defense of Democracies, and I have a lot of respect for Cliff, but you guys are taking the Russian side on this. This is, they meddled in American elections. We should hit them hard.
They did.
We should take action, and we should defend American
of course,
interests.
but I want to see the proof.
I don't care who won.
I want to see the evidence. I'd like to see. Right, listen, maybe I don't mean anything. Here, let me read this, Arash. Let me read this. New York Times, right? Left wing. Let's call them left. They've been pro Obama. They've been pro Hillary. New York Times. I'm quoting. Despite the fanfare and political repercussions surrounding the announcement, it is not clear how much real effect the sanctions may have. Point being, no teeth. Quacks like a duck. It's got to be a duck.
Yeah, let me say that again. I'm glad this was done. It's largely symbolic, but the bigger picture here is that the Chinese, for example, have been stealing libraries of valuable classified information from us for years without repercussions. The North Koreans have done damage, and the Iranians are the other adversaries we have in the cyber domain. We need policies, and I hope we'll have them in the next administration. I'm not guaranteeing that we will. That deals with all of these.
And you're right. And is right. We should go after.
President Obama had 8 years to be doing this. At 8 years. And he also, remember, he's the guy who said, listen, after the election, after I get reelected, I'll have a lot more flexibility. Now, all of a sudden, with 22 more days before he has to leave office, he's going to put this big divide between the U.S. and Russia and say, hey, Donald Trump, here are the keys to the White House. Good luck.
Oh, the big divide between the U.S. and Russia existed the day that Putin took office, right before New Year's in 1999, in 2000, as a matter of fact. So that big divide has always been there.
It wasn't there when he said Hillary Clinton over there to, quote, reset. It wasn't there when he offered that when I get reelected, we'll have more flexibility.
And you know what? And Cliff is right. And Cliff is right. If the Iranians and the Chinese and the Russians, or anybody for that matter, is hurting American interest, we should go after
Absolutely.
them. We should do
Cliff
it
isn't right.
stiffly.
We're all
we should
right.
do it
We all
firmly.
agree on that.
And
No
we
one said-
haven't done
no
it.
one
And
said differently.
I just want to know. Can Obama do anything to be enough? I mean, can Obama do anything right for you to praise him?
You know what he can do?
After the Russians, you guys still don't like it.
He can facilitate a smooth transition of power from Obama to Trump presidency. Cliff, go ahead.
Well, tell Trump to get off Twitter first, and he will have a much smoother transition.
Just want to say, you're right about President Putin, no question about it, and the reset with Russia that President Obama attempted, blaming President Bush for all the problems with Russia. That was something that I hope has been learned. Something was learned from that. Right now, what we have is a problem, and that has not been addressed. Again, with cyber espionage, we conducted too, so we have to be careful how much we do, and cyber warfare, which could be as dangerous as any kinetic warfare we face. And I do think that's the thing. What I would like to see, and I agree with Eric on this, you would like to see the president and the president-elect talking about how one can help the other. That was not done in terms of UNESCO. That has not been done here, and that's going to be a problem for the next 3 weeks.
I got 20 seconds, Yoresh. Last word.
You know, you, myself, and Cliff, our hearts are in the right place. We disagree on policy, but here's what we should all agree on. Russia is not a friend of the United States or the American people. It's an adversary. Putin is an adversary, and they have to be dealt with short-term and long-term.
And we'll leave it right there. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Coming up next, the shocking death of Hollywood legend Debbie Reynolds just one day after the passing of her daughter, Carrie Fisher. A look back on her life, career, and the heartbreak when the factor comes right back. In the personal story segment tonight, the death of Hollywood legend Debbie Reynolds one day after the passing of her daughter, Carrie Fisher. Reynolds suffered an apparent stroke yesterday while planning Fisher's funeral. Her son Todd says the stress of his sister's death was too much for her. Debbie Reynolds epitomized the golden age of Hollywood. At the ripe young age of 19, she sang and danced her way into America's heart.
What a lovely morning. Good morning.
Good morning. We've talked the whole night through.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Good morning.
Good morning. It's great to stay up late. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Joining us now from Los Angeles with more, Harvey Levin, the executive producer of TMZ, which broke the very, very sad news. Harvey, I'm seeing a lot of you, brother. It's good talking to you, but, you know, this stuff is heartbreaking, especially last night. I'm at dinner, and I hear, what, Debbie Reynolds died 24 hours after Carrie Fisher passes? What's going on, man?
I got to tell you, when we first found out that she had the stroke, because we knew that an ambulance had come to Todd's house, her son's house, we just thought, oh my God, could this possibly be happening again? And I have to tell you, Eric, we've covered a lot of deaths over the years at TMZ, and this year especially. I was really surprised at the level of intense interest on this story. Debbie Reynolds was a huge star. She's also, 84 years old. And a lot of times when older people pass, the younger people, especially our site, which tends to be younger, that it resonates, but not profoundly. This resonated profoundly. The interest on social media, on our social media, as well as the site, was incredible, and I think part of it obviously is just this almost Shakespearean drama that played out where, Carrie dies and then Debbie dies. But Debbie was a big star in her own right. We are now hearing that they are talking about doing a mother-daughter funeral, a dual funeral, where the family doesn't have to go through this multiple times, and it just seems fitting, which will be honestly, one of the biggest, most emotional Hollywood events in memory.
I can't imagine how emotional that would be if it's a mother-daughter funeral. Harvey, it's a cliche, but, you have to look at it. Did she die? Did Debbie Reynolds die of a broken heart?
Well, I mean, when we broke the news about her death, we had talked to Todd, and he told us, she said before the stroke, shortly before the stroke yesterday, she said, I miss her so much, I want to be with Carrie. Now, We have talked to, doctors and all sorts of people, and there's grief is connected to stress. Debbie had several strokes, we're told, this year, and was in failing health. And, do you call it a broken heart? Well, yes, because the grief brings on the stress, which brings on the stroke. And so we've actually talked to medical professionals who are telling us today this is not kind of an outlandish theory, and this happens quite a bit. I mean, I'm sure you've heard stories where people were married for 50 years and one spouse dies shortly thereafter the other one does.
Yeah, and Harvey, talk to us a little bit how they had separated for a while. They were close, then they had separated, became estranged, and then towards the end they were very close again, right?
Let me tell you how close they are, Eric. They shared the same driveway. They actually lived on a compound where Carrie and Debbie were next door to each other, and Todd had a home on the same property. I think it was like 5 acres, but in Beverly Hills. But they saw each other every day, or if they didn't see each other, they would at least talk to each other every day. They had a difficult relationship, but they always came back to each other. And they were joined at the hip ultimately, and you could just tell by Debbie's reaction that whatever damage had been done over the years had been significantly repaired.
Harvey, you mentioned Shakespearean tragedy. You look at the two of them. Debbie Reynolds, Singing in the Rain, the clip we played, she was 19 years old at the time. Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia, 19 years old.
I mean, there are parallel paths to their lives, and they both did multiple things. It's funny, Debbie Reynolds has 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, I believe one for music and one for movies. So they were both prolific. I mean, Carrie, for crying out loud, is an author, and she's an actress, and she's a producer, and, she did so much in her life, and, really touched every facet of Hollywood. So both of them had a lot in common.
Yeah, and Harvey, also this, Debbie Reynolds had a really, really rough relationship life. Her first husband, Eddie Fisher, left her. She blamed herself. I saw an interview with her. She blamed herself for picking the wrong types of men. And then later, a businessman, Harry Carl, I believe, squandered all her money. This is so heartbreaking.
Yeah, no, she said she was bad at choosing men. I will say, you mentioned Eddie Fisher, and remember, Eddie Fisher left Debbie Reynolds to be with Elizabeth Taylor, who was Debbie Reynolds' best friend, and even Carrie kind of referred to them as the OG Brad Pitt, Jennifer Aniston, Angelina Jolie. So she even joked about that on occasion, and there are some parallels there as well.
Yeah, so she came back from a lot of hardships. This is one she seemed to not be able to come back from. It's heartbreaking. Talk to us. I know, Harvey, we've seen each other quite a few times recently. Alan Thicke passes away. George Michael passes away. Carrie Fisher passes away.
Prince, Muhammad Ali.
What is it about 2016? It's a rough year.
Well, it's funny because we had the discussion in the room yesterday after Debbie Reynolds died, and I was saying, isn't it kind of like this every year? And then all of a sudden everybody said, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, and they started bringing up all these stories. And they're right. I mean, I am wrong. This seems an exceptional year, especially for celebrity deaths. But, wow, when you go through the list, it's daunting.
Okay, last question before I let you go. What happens with the Star Wars, the episodes that, number one, she's already got on tape an episode, but going further, what's the plan?
Well, 8 is in the can. She's already wrapped 8, so that will go as planned. Now, there were future Star Wars planned where Carrie was going to have some involvement, and that may need some changing as a result, obviously, of her death. But 8, she will be in it. It will be there.
All right, Harvey, thank you very much. Best to Charles, too, by the way, my friend.
Thank you, Eric.
All right, and there's plenty more ahead as the Factor moves along this evening. Bristol Palin takes on Hollywood, calling celebrities afraid to perform at the Trump inauguration, quote, sissies. Also, President Obama leaving behind a legacy of divisiveness. We'll have analysis, and we hope you stay tuned for those reports.
Live from America's News headquarters, I'm Patricia Stark. New hope in the effort to end Syria's 6-year-long civil war. A nationwide ceasefire is now in effect. It began a little more than 3 hours ago. The latest truce was brokered by both Russia and Turkey. The Syrian opposition says most major rebel groups will abide by it, but it does not include ISIS or the regional al-Qaeda branch. Previous truces have failed within days. But if this new one holds, it will be followed by peace talks next month in Kazakhstan. Extra security will be in place at New York City's Times Square to welcome in the new year 2 days from now. 65 20-ton garbage trucks will be placed at intersections to prevent terrorist truck attacks like recent ones in Germany and France. They'll be weighed down with an extra 15 tons of sand. 7,000 police officers, including armed counterterrorism units and bomb-sniffing dogs, will also be in place. I'm Patricia Stark, and now back to the O'Reilly Factor.
In the Unresolved Problem segment tonight, still no word on which A-listers, if any, will be performing at Donald Trump's inauguration, but there are reports that at least some stars are turning down the invitation because they are either afraid of the backlash or simply opposed to him politically. About that, Bristol Palin has a few words. In a blog post this week, the daughter of former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin called the stars who feared backlash, quote, sissies, and lamented that being a Hollywood conservative is just, quote, not cool. But does Trump even need any big stars? Here's what former Saturday Night Live star Joe Piscopo told Fox's Neil Cavuto.
He is the main celebrity. Donald, he doesn't need anybody. Right. You don't need anybody. Just Donald there. I say save all the money, do one little thing. Look what Hillary did, like we talked about, the night before the election when the coronation of Queen Hillary was supposed to be. Everybody who was anybody, who I loved the event. No, she lost. It was no one cares about the celebrities.
Joining us now from Washington, Mercedes Schlapp, a Republican strategist, and Atima Omara, a Democratic strategist. I'll start with you, Atima. So, as Joe Piscopo aptly pointed out, I remember all the celebrities coming out for Hillary Clinton. Bon Jovi, Bruce Springsteen, all of them. And she lost.
Well, yes, she did. But I think for Donald Trump that this is sort of like an embarrassment for him, right? I mean, he's been a real estate magnate for about 40-some-odd years. He's a celebrity in his own right, in part because he mixed a lot with A-list celebrities. They went to his stuff. He appeared in movies, TV shows, even had a celebrity reality show that we know as Celebrity Apprentice. So for him, I feel like it's more of an insult in that, these are some of his colleagues, people he thought would join him, in his presidential, triumph being inaugurated on the 20th, well, and that's not the case.
Mercedes, Donald Trump said, you know what, I don't need stars, I need people.
It's not an insult at all. On the contrary, I think that being in any way attached to some of these celebrities who have used profane language against Donald Trump, who have been hanging out with the elitist and on the Hillary campaign trail and very much disconnected from reality in terms of the struggles of the American people, we don't need them. At the end of the day, what we're going to remember is the swearing-in ceremony when President-elect Donald Trump takes the oath and becomes president. That's what's going to be in the history books. It's not going to be about which celebrity didn't come or couldn't make it, because at the end of the day, what I'm seeing from the left is the fact that they're intolerant, that they're not. Every time there's a celebrity that's thinking about coming, there's a backlash on social media. Now we have Charlie Sheen coming out and basically saying, dear God, take Donald Trump next. Let's be real. They have no tolerance for the conservatives. They don't have tolerance for Donald Trump. And guess what? This is going to be the inauguration for the people.
I think it's really cute, though, because there are plenty of conservatives in Hollywood who could have come out. 50 Cent is one. We don't know. I think Kanye West might be one. Jessica Simpson. I mean, heck, George W. Bush had Ricky Martin and Jessica Simpson at the top of their careers perform. So it's not unheard of to have celebrities. I think it's more, if Donald Trump didn't, Mercedes, if Donald Trump didn't care, then he wouldn't be like talking about it on Twitter, right? He'd just keep moving about his day.
So let me ask you this, Atima. Hold on. Let me ask you this. So Jon Stewart, Barbara Streisand, Chelsea Handler, Alec Baldwin, Amy Schumer, they all promised to leave the country if Donald Trump was elected president. He's elected president. They're still sticking around. When are they going to leave?
I have no idea, but if they want to, they certainly have the resources to do it.
No. Atima, Mercedes, as you know, I've offered them a one-way ticket. I'll give them first-class airfare wherever they want to go.
I have an idea. They can leave on Inauguration Day. It'd be perfect, January 20th. They can all leave, go straight to Canada. I don't think we would miss them, quite frankly, Eric.
You know what's nasty, Atima, is that there is a group of celebrities that want to have some sort of event on Inauguration Day, January 20th, competing against the inauguration. What's that all about? Can they let the man have his moment? He's the next commander-in-chief.
Oh, we could certainly have this moment, but, you know, always there has been, regardless of what party is getting sworn in, there's always been, like, counter events, you know, whether it's a protest, whether it's a party. So there's going to be a lot of progressives who are going to be in town. I mean, it's still a lot of folks who live here who are Democrats who aren't leaving. I'm one of them. And, you know, there's entertainment for us to attend.
All right. Final word, Mercy.
You know, at the end of the day, this is an opportunity for Americans to come together and remember this historic moment, this peaceful, what you would want as a peaceful transition. I would hope that the Democrats and these liberal celebrities would just take a chill and let Donald Trump have his day. Let the opportunity for Americans to celebrate this wonderful historic moment. So, you know, at this point, I do hope that they take off Inauguration Day and will leave the rest of us to celebrate.
Or Atima, maybe you can do this. Hey, celebrities, you're fired. Ladies,
so
thank
where
you.
will we get our entertainment?
Oh, please, I don't know.
Eric Bolling. Eric,
Watch
come
the Factor.
on. That's the celebrities I want to see. I want to see the five over here in Washington, D.C.
That's right.
Come
Watch
on.
the five and then the Factor. Ladies, thank you so much.
That's right.
As President Obama gets ready to leave office, is he also leaving behind a legacy of divider-in-chief? We'll debate it when the Factor comes right back. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Eric Bolling in for Bill O'Reilly. And in the Factor follow-up segment tonight, President Obama leaving office with a legacy of divisiveness within the country and within the Democratic Party. In fact, the senior politics editor for the lefty website, The Huffington Post, is blaming the president outright for destroying the party.
You look at the destruction of the Democratic Party under Barack Obama's leadership, and you have to wonder, you know, what was the political, what were the electoral benefits that he gave to the party? He leaves them in a much worse position. The states are decimated. They've lost control of the House and the Senate. The governorships are decimated.
A recent Pew poll shows the president is also leaving behind a divided nation. According to Pew, 81% of Democrats approve of Obama versus only 14% of Republicans. That's a 67-point gap. By contrast, when President Bush left office, the gap was 58 points, 81 to 23. Joining us now to analyze, Jessica Tarlov, a Democratic pollster and strategist, and from Washington, Katrina Pearson, who is the national spokesperson for the Trump campaign. Look, when you hear Sam Stein, when you hear a HuffPost senior editor, politics editor say, hey, President Obama is the divider-in-chief not only of the Democratic Party, but the country, you got to scratch your head and say, hey, that's what we've been saying for a long time.
That's exactly what we've been saying, and it's not just us saying it anymore. Now you have Democrats coming out and saying it in their states, saying they don't even recognize their party. But, Eric, of course this president is the divider-in-chief. His entire political career revolved around racism, sexism, classism, and even elitism. So, of course, he's a divisive person. Not to mention his entire tenure as president, he rebuked every opportunity that he had to work across the aisle to get some policies done that would best serve Americans.
Okay, Jess, what about it? So we know, look at the results. You have 31 Republican governors.
Yeah.
You have a 2-vote majority in the Senate. You have a 63-vote majority in the House. It didn't work. 8 years of Obama dividing didn't work.
Well, it didn't work electorally. I mean, I used to like Sam Stein, but now I'm over him. And I agree with a lot of what Katrina said there.
Well, what is he wrong about?
He's not wrong. Electorally, we were decimated. There's no, I mean, we did gain back seats from where we were in 2012, but we certainly didn't do what we could have accomplished. When you look at his personal favorability, though it's obviously split along partisan
gained
lines.
6 seats. You were looking for
right.
30. You were going to be happy with 20.
Right, or just one
6.
president I would have taken at this point, quite frankly. I mean, I do think back off into in 2010 when Mitch McConnell said that it was his goal to make President Obama a one-term president. So the Republicans have a role in this and making it that we couldn't have all that legislation that Katrina brought up that would benefit both sides.
Do you concur with Sam Stein now, the divider-in-chief, in fact?
No, I wouldn't call him the divider-in-chief. I mean, there are a lot of parts of the Democratic platform that are overwhelmingly popular, like raising the minimum wage, overtime pay, gay marriage. Obamacare now is, even in terms of popularity, there are articles constantly about Trump voters who don't want their Obamacare taken away. So it's not necessarily, I think, the Democrat agenda that would has moved too far to the left for me. But there's clearly a cult of personality factor here with Obama.
Katrina, the
Eric,
Democrats...
You can't really put this on a Republican at all, not even Mitch McConnell, just because he said what he said. You know, that didn't stop the President of the United States from not meeting with members in the Senate or even of the House. And that's exactly what he did on his own. Obamacare was passed with 100% of Democrats, not a single Republican. That's not a bipartisan governance. But more importantly, you know, Barack Obama is not the person that has destroyed the Democrat Party, because no individual can destroy an entire party. The reason why this party is struggling right now is because of the extreme leftist ideology that they are imposing on every single American.
Katrina, I just listed a bunch of policies that are core Democrat policies that have overwhelming public support. Tell me what it is that's the problem there. I get it. We have some overregulation.
Can I throw something in the mix? Katrina, let me throw something in the mix. The PC culture that the left is all about, people have had enough of it. There are those on the right who say, we've been pushed back, we've been told we can't say this, we can't think this, we're not supposed to do this. And they said, enough is enough, we're electing Donald Trump, where we feel we can say things that we feel. And maybe that was becoming unpopular in America, and they also are core Democratic ideologies. Katrina.
Well, it's not even just that. I mean, yes, the political correctness aspect of it is one thing. But when you have a party that essentially demonizes people who have strong traditional family values, just look at the states that were blue that turned red a month ago. This is beyond political correctness. This is about an extreme ideology, Katrina, that is being forced down the public's throat.
When you say core family values, do you mean being anti-gay marriage? Because 60% of the country is pro-gay marriage, when in 2001, 57% opposed.
People who have traditional family values are criticized. They are criticized.
Tell me what it means.
They are talking down to.
Tell me what it means.
Going through.
What does it mean to you, traditional family values?
Traditional family values, pro-life, pro-family.
What's pro-family? Does that mean not gay marriage? Tell me if it means to you that marriage is only between a man and a woman, because that is not what Americans feel. 60% are pro-gay marriage.
No, Jessica, but this is what I'm trying to explain to you. You're making my point. People who believe that marriage is between a man and a woman, despite the popularity in opposition, still have a right to believe what they believe. And instead, they're ostracized and treated like subhuman because of it.
Katrina, if you think that Donald Trump won Wisconsin and Michigan because of his stance about marriage being between a man and a woman, you're dead wrong. That's what I'm telling you. We lost by 80,000 votes. Right? I mean, we won by 3 million, but 80,000 in terms of the Electoral College.
Donald Trump won because he's pro-America, had a pro-America policy and agenda, and the left does not.
All right, going to have to leave it right there. Katrina, Jessica, thank you very much. A quick footnote, Bill O'Reilly would like to thank you for making his powerhouse history book, Killing the Rising Sun, the biggest selling adult book of the year. Also, Bill's kids book, Give Please a Chance, is #1 in its category. And if you go to BillO'Reilly.com and become a premium member, you can get any one of Bill's books absolutely free. Fact. And my book, Wake Up America, is a great read as we wrap 2016. Just ask President-elect Donald Trump. He wrote a nice quote for the back cover, as did Mr. Bill O'Reilly himself as well. Still to come, is the left denying there's a war on cops? We'll tell you about some troubling new statistics about officers killed in the line of duty. The Factor will be right back. 2016 was an extraordinarily difficult year to be a police officer. According to the Officer Down Memorial page, 138 officers have been killed in the line of duty this year. 62 officers were shot to death. That's a 59% increase from last year, when 39 officers were shot and killed. Joining us now for reaction, Jonathan Gilliam, a former FBI agent, and a Washington, D.C. radio talk show host, Jamila Bey. Jonathan, we'll start with you. What's going? That's a massive increase, and it's a scary increase. What's happening?
It is, and it's. I think, you know, I was on here a couple weeks ago with you talking about the same subject, and I think this is a sign. It's a stat that we can use to show that there is increased violence against cops. So there is a war on police officers. Now we compare and contrast that with the war that the press, the media puts out there.
Let me stop you. I hate to stop you, but who is perpetrating the war on police officers?
That's where I'm going. The media, politicians, and people who either want to escalate the problem or they want to cover the problem of the reality, which is the inner city and the breakdown of the inner city, the breakdown of families, the breakdown of the relationship between cops and the community.
Okay, but I'm going to push back on you a little bit. So the media and the politicians may be inciting some of it, but who's perpetrating it?
Well, another great question is, we always try to make this into gun violence, but the reality is it's gang violence and it's illegal gun violence. There's a big difference just saying gun violence. But liberals can use that statistic, and then they can push that forward.
Let me ask you, Jamila, what do you say to Jonathan, who says it's gang violence and illegal gun violence that's perpetrating this war on cops? First of all, do you believe there's a war on cops?
This is complete. There's the rhetoric that says there's a war on cops, but that is inflammatory. I want to stick to facts here.
Well, there's numbers there, so it's not inflammatory.
No, look, you're in studio with the guy. I'm in a booth. Give me some respect and let me speak. Number one, what we're talking about here is we have easy access to guns. We have limited mental health care capabilities in a lot of this country, and we know that we are not targeting the homegrown terrorists that exist in this country. There are white separatist groups, there are white supremacist organizations that have perpetrated attacks on police that nobody's talking about because, hey, Jamila, well, they look like the
guy
average
is Eric.
Fox News viewer right now.
The guy is Eric, number one. Number two, it's again the no spin zone. Let's not spin this, all right? You just blamed limited health. You just blame limited health care and homegrown terrorists and white separatist groups for the increase in mortality to police officers this year. Am I getting this straight?
I didn't say health care. I said mental health care, which is an issue. There isn't a way to determine people who we know have access to guns, we know have relationships with these organizations that are government separatist, anti-government, and we know that these people exist. Right. If we were to look in our own backyards, in the homelands, in the heartlands, we would be doing a better job of protecting our police by figuring out where the threat comes from.
Jamila, I'm going to get Jonathan in a second, but do you think it has anything to do with the Black Lives Matter saying that Blue Lives Matter is insulting and racist, or do you think it has anything to do with the very liberal inner city mayors who don't back their own police officers when they're trying to keep the peace in the community?
Everybody, look, let me tell you something. I am a cop's kid. I speak fluent cop. I love cops. Cops are all through my family. No reasonable American doesn't believe that we don't need police. What we're talking about is there are people who have...
That is not what I said. You're twisting my words, please.
Before you attack me for saying... no, I'm not saying that's what you said. I'm telling you where I'm coming from.
Well, I asked you a question. I'd like you to answer the question. The question is, do you think Black Lives Matter suggesting Blue Lives Matter is racist, and the liberal inner city mayors saying that not backing their police departments is part of the problem why cops are being gunned down?
Two different issues here, and I'm going to address them both. Black Lives Matter saying that Blue Lives Matter is racist is their particular opinion. I'm not here speaking for Black Lives Matter. I think Blue Lives Matter...
Is Blue Lives Matter racist? Is Blue Lives Matter a racist comment? As a daughter of a cop?
I personally, as somebody unaffiliated, think Blue Lives Matter is not racist. I don't think Black Lives Matter is racist. I don't think...
Nor do I. I think all lives matter
is
the way we should go. Quickly, I want to bring Jonathan.
When you talk about policing policy and liberal mayors in inner cities not backing up their police, what we have to do is look at, well, what are the incidents that are going on that make these mayors say, well, we're going to withhold judgment or whatever. It's not a cut and dry. All cops are great all the time, every time. There are issues of nuance that need to be considered.
Let me bring Jonathan. What are the issues that are causing the strife in the community?
Well, nothing that she just pointed out. I mean, white supremacy and separatist groups did not shoot 50 people in Chicago and kill 11 over the holiday season. Okay, that wasn't white separatists. That wasn't terrorist groups.
Well, that was gangland violence.
That was gangland violence. What we have here is a breakdown in the inner city. Take the color out of it. It's poverty. It's government's not doing their job to clean up and take people off of dependency and empower them to give them weapons to defend themselves, the legal citizens, the law-abiding citizens, and standing up against groups like Black Lives Matter who go after cops. I mean, that's the reality. These cops, when they put a gun... hold on a second. You talk for 10 minutes. Hold on. When And nothing in there when you were describing your father said that you were a cop. So you don't know what it's like to be on the street. You may know what it's like to have a father come back from the street, but you don't know what it's like to be on the street. Being on the street, these cops, every day they go out, they're putting their life on the line. When they put their badge on and their gun on, they go there to do the right thing. The people that are killing cops, almost 100% of those people are involved in criminal behavior. All of them are criminals.
Well, clearly they are. If you murder a cop, you're a criminal. You could even be
They're
a
involved
parent.
in criminal behavior in the process of criminal behavior when they kill them.
Well, Jamil, the Black Lives Matter group, those protesters, what do I smell? Pigs in a blanket, fry like bacon. You remember those? What do we want? Dead cops. What do we want? We want them now, right here in New York City. I mean, there's a movement against cops and in inner cities that's dangerous. It's killing them.
I challenge you to say that there's a movement that's predicated upon murdering cops, killing cops, having a war on cops. I challenge you. I do not
I
see
said
that.
there's a movement that disrespects police officers, which is ending up with them being killed at an alarming rate. That's what I'm saying.
You're moving the goalposts.
And it's a group that does
disrespecting cops.
This group does nothing to help the inner city.
As an American citizen, you've got a First Amendment right to disrespect whomever you wish.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. But if it becomes dangerous, when it becomes dangerous, that's when the line gets gray. We're going to have to leave it right there. Jonathan, Jamila, thank you very much. Up next, a great way to spend an hour on New Year's Day. Stay with us. Finally tonight, have we got an idea for you to kick off the new year? 8 p.m. Sunday night, Fox News will present Legends and Lies, The Patriots, How Freedom Was Won. It highlights how General George Washington led the troops during the Revolutionary War and won, declaring independence from the British and the birth of the United States as an independent nation. Here's a sample.
Our lookouts report the sightings of British ships off the coast of Sandy Hook, Your Excellency.
We're not ready for this.
The signal fire isn't lit.
If the British were here, we would barely have a chance to make a stand. There is no discipline in this army. An army needs a loftier goal than mere survival. The only answer now is to declare our independence.
And you can see that whole episode New Year's Day right here on Fox News Sunday at 8 p.m. And that's it for us tonight. Again, thanks for watching. I'm Eric Bolling in for Bill O'Reilly. And please remember, the spin stops here because we're looking out for you.